long ago, the Christian Democrats were celebrating a victory in the German election, defeating the Alternative for Germany by around 8 points. But since then, the CDU's catastrophic decisions have paved the way for the AfD, who now finds themselves neck and neck with the CDU in a shocking political shift. Once a dominant force in German politics, the CDU is now stumbling from one disastrous decision to another. Their inability to effectively respond to the rise of the AfD highlights a deeper issue: a political establishment that has become increasingly disconnected from the concerns of the people. The CDU's plight raises a fundamental question. How has the traditional political system become so detached from the very citizens it was supposed to represent? The answer is both simple and stark. The CDU, along with other mainstream parties, has abandoned the working class, the very backbone of their political base. In their obsession with globalist policies, they failed to recognize the growing economic distress among ordinary citizens. This neglect created a vacuum, which the AfD, a far-right populist party, has filled with alarming speed. The political elite, obsessed with neoliberal reforms and catering to international financiers, ignored the material needs of their own people. As a result, the traditional parties find themselves under siege by a populist movement that is gaining ground at their expense. To understand the gravity of the CDU's political demise, it's important to look at the series of decisions that have led to this crisis. Most notably, the CDU has ruled out a coalition with the AfD, effectively leaving them with just one viable coalition partner, the SPD. This decision has forced the CDU into a corner, where they're negotiating with a party that, ideologically, stands at odds with their own base. By ruling out the AfD as a coalition partner, the CDU has made a fatal strategic error. Not only did they alienate a significant portion of the electorate, but they also limited their options in a way that guarantees the dominance of left-wing factions in any coalition talks. This decision has served to further isolate the CDU from its conservative base and has exposed the broader failure of European political systems that are no longer in touch with the needs of their citizens. The CDU should be asking itself a critical question. How do we become so disconnected from the people that we now refuse to even consider alliances with political groups that represent millions of citizens? The fact that the CDU has distanced itself from the AfD, one of the fastest-growing political movements in the country, is not just a tactical mistake. It is a reflection of a system that no longer serves the needs of its people. The rise of the AfD is not a fleeting phenomenon. It is the inevitable consequence of years of neglect and failure on the part of the mainstream parties. The CDU's refusal to engage with the AfD demonstrates just how deep the divide has grown between Germany's political elites and the everyday citizens they are meant to represent. Adding fuel to the fire, the CDU recently pushed through a massive debt and infrastructure spending plan before the new parliament could be seated to challenge it. This rushed decision, which ignored the election results, marked a complete abandonment of fiscal responsibility. The CDU's willingness to make concessions to the left-wing SPD only deepened the country's economic crisis and alienated conservatives who were appalled by such reckless spending. What is particularly troubling is that these decisions are being made without any genuine consideration for the future of Germany. The political elite, much like their counterparts across Europe, have become so obsessed with maintaining power that they are willing to sacrifice the country's long-term fiscal health to do so. The massive debt they are accumulating is a ticking time bomb that will eventually explode, leaving the German people to pay the price. The result of these catastrophic decisions is a rapid decline in conservative support, which has been steadily replaced by the rising popularity of the AfD. As the political elite clings to power and continues to double down on failed policies, the people of Germany are waking up to the fact that the political establishment does not have their best interests at heart. This disillusionment is fueling the rise of populist alternatives like the AfD, which promises to challenge the status quo. Germany now finds itself in a political crisis. The CDU/CSU conservatives are in coalition talks with the SPD, both parties currently polling at 24%. Meanwhile, the AfD, having surged in popularity, has now joined the CDU at the top. The Social Democrats are far behind at 16%, while the Greens and Left Party are stuck at 11%. This rapid shift in political fortunes has been nothing short of unprecedented. The AfD's rise to prominence is a clear signal that the people of Germany are rejecting the policies of the political establishment. The CDU, which once dominated the political landscape, is now struggling to maintain its relevance in the face of a growing populist movement. The political elite has failed to deliver on their promises and has alienated a large swath of the electorate, pushing them into the arms of populist forces. The inability of the CDU to maintain its dominance is a sign of the broader collapse of the centrist political order in Germany and throughout Europe. Mainstream parties, whether conservative or left-wing, have become more concerned with preserving the status quo and securing their own positions of power than addressing the real issues facing ordinary citizens. As a result, the rise of populist movements like the AfD is an inevitable outcome of this systemic failure. Germany's political crisis is part of a global trend in which traditional political parties are losing their relevance, and populist movements are filling the void. The political class can no longer afford to ignore the rising tide of discontent. Whether you agree with the AfD's politics or not, it represents the voice of millions of Germans who feel abandoned by the political elites. The CDU, in its failure to respond to the needs of the people, has allowed this populist surge to happen. It seems only a matter of time before the AfD overtakes the CDU and becomes the dominant force in German politics. The head of the Institute for New Social Answers has called this unprecedented shift the most dramatic decline in support ever seen between Bundestag elections and the formation of a government. The failure of the CDU to maintain its dominance is a clear sign that the old political order is crumbling under the weight of its own contradictions. What we are witnessing in Germany is not just the fall of one political party. It is the collapse of a system that has lost its legitimacy in the eyes of the people. This crisis is not confined to Germany. It is a global phenomenon. Across Europe, the United States, and other parts of the world, we are witnessing the rise of populism and the decline of traditional political parties. Years of economic mismanagement, austerity policies, and the growing power of disconnected elites have left the political system unresponsive to the needs of ordinary citizens. In turn, this has opened the door for radical, populist alternatives that promise real change. Now, in the midst of this crisis, the CDU and SPD have reportedly canceled the next parliamentary session, allegedly to avoid further fallout. Opposition parties are protesting, and the AfD is claiming that the CDU is rattled. The AfD, sensing an opportunity, has pledged to push forward with all the demands the CDU/CSU promised during the election campaign. The political situation in Germany is moving incredibly fast. The AfD, once considered a fringe party, is now on equal footing with the CDU in terms of popularity. If the CDU continues on its current path, it's only a matter of time before the AfD surpasses them. The political establishment is scrambling, but its actions are only accelerating the rise of the far right. Germany's political crisis is more than just a clash of parties. It is a broader crisis of governance. The traditional parties have failed to meet the needs of the people, and the rise of the AfD is an inevitable consequence of that failure. As the CDU and SPD continue to cling to power through undemocratic means, they're only hastening the collapse of the old order. The message from the people is loud and clear. They're fed up with a political system that no longer serves their interests. Across Europe, the political elites must wake up to the reality that their time is running out. The era of establishment politics is drawing to a close, and the rise of populism is a reflection of the deep discontent brewing beneath the surface. The people are speaking, and the political class would be wise to listen before it's too late. This is not just a passing trend. It is the future of politics in Europe and beyond. The old guard is crumbling, and the people are demanding change. The question now is, will the political elites continue to ignore them, or will they finally confront the reality that the system is broken? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: the status quo cannot survive.